There's actually a fairly thin margin between the testosterone dose that actually you're going to be optimized at and can optimally handle, and the dose that starts to bleed into causing problems for you. And for many men, or some men, that line seems to move a little bit. For example, you might be on a standard dose, but you actually feel a little bit worse than you did before, or maybe you're on a gel or cream and you feel absolutely nothing, like possibly it's literally doing nothing for your body. You go in to see your doctor to get some better understanding of what you might do to improve it. And maybe they run your total testosterone, maybe they don't even do it, and kind of shrug it off and say, basically, you're on your own. But your body is screaming that the input, something is off. And so whether it's a dose that actually isn't getting delivered to where your cells actually are going to respond to it, or a dose that's driving your system too hard and causing other problems, we need to understand the specific warning signs and symptoms so you can stop guessing and start fixing. Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Terranella, and I help patients with these complex problems with their testosterone protocols, etc., every single day. And to do this safely, we have to move beyond just looking at a single lab marker and look at the specific biochemistry behind what's actually happening to cause your specific problems. This isn't magic, it's mechanisms. Okay, so here's the idea that I want you to really understand in the beginning. The wrong dose isn't just about the amount of milligrams in the syringe that you're injecting. It's about the functional delivery of that medicine into your body. You can be the wrong dose in two opposing directions as well. The first one has to do with what I would consider a phantom dose. You're applying testosterone cream maybe to your arm, but it's not actually reaching the cellular target. And the second has to do with creating a metabolic deficit or debt in your body. You're getting that testosterone into your tissues where it belongs, but the cost of processing that and the consequences of that are kind of bankrupting the rest of the system. So let's dive into this and help you understand where your mismatch might be. Of course, dialing all these things in does require looking at the whole picture. Absorption, genetics, blood counts, all these different scenarios. And we cover a lot of these topics, all these topics really, and how to troubleshoot them in this new ebook that I created called Mastering Your TRT Journey. And I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. Also, don't forget I made an app to help you figure out and assess if maybe you're getting too much or too little testosterone, which directly applies to this situation as well. All right, so we're going to look at three distinct different scenarios that are going on that can create these kind of problems. The first one, as we alluded to earlier, is the phantom dose, the absorption problem. This is the most common problem with gels and creams. In this case, you're applying the dose of testosterone, either topically or injecting it. You still have fatigue, and this can happen for a couple of different reasons. The most common with testosterone creams and gels is the skin being a barrier and not really like the sponge that we might assume. So in some cases, the skin simply just doesn't allow it to penetrate into the body. It doesn't let the hormones really get into the bloodstream. You're applying it, but basically your tank never gets up to a sufficient level for you to actually feel any better. Your tissues aren't getting saturated with the testosterone molecule. There's also, in some cases, a kind of timing mismatch. And this is a really common mistake that I see too with creams and gels, is that you apply the cream, say at 7 a.m. on day 1, and you go get your blood tested on day 2 at 8 a.m. or even 7 a.m. the following day. And with creams and gels, they have a pretty short half-life. You're talking maybe 8 hours if you're lucky. And so by the time you actually get your blood drawn, there's nothing left in the blood to even check. And so if this is the case, you need to test your levels at least 6 hours after the application to kind of capture that peak. And if you do capture that peak and it's too high, that's not as much of a concern, especially if you are dropping off quickly and you check, at 8 or 10 hours and it's actually really low. It's actually how the creams and gels work most of the time. If, on the other hand, you test your peak and it's still really low, you likely have an absorption problem. Of course, it could be that your dose is just too low for you and you need to increase that dose, especially if it increased a little bit. I'd be thinking this. But if it basically did nothing, then you may want to go back to the drawing board and look at a different delivery option. If your peak is actually good, or maybe even on the high side, but you're still kind of crashing by dinner time or not feeling well, you're probably metabolizing it a little bit quicker than you should, and you may need to split the dose into 2 separate dosing strategies, and sometimes even taking the same dose twice a day is the recommendation there. In this case, though, you would expect to have seen some improvement in your symptoms from the beginning to now. It just may not have taken you to where you expected. You still have a little bit of hypogonadal symptoms. And so that's what happens when the dose doesn't actually get into your body, when it doesn't get delivered. But what if the dose is getting in? You clearly have elevation in your testosterone, and sometimes it's having effects on your red blood cells, yet you still feel exhausted. That's the second thing we want to look at. It usually happens when you're trying to fix a totally different problem that's created by the testosterone. This is the iron bankruptcy issue, and it's a common thing that I see a lot. It's kind of paradoxical, but your testosterone is high, your red blood cells are super high, but you feel exhausted. You're heavy-limbed, short of breath, maybe having trouble getting to the gym or even getting a full workout in. And it starts when you start donating blood for your high hematocrit. And it's confusing too, because after you did your first blood donation, you actually felt better. You felt maybe a little lighter, maybe a little more energetic. But after the second, third, fourth, or sometimes even more donations down the road, you kind of start hitting a wall. You're feeling more tired and you don't really know what's going on. And basically, you've dumped out all your reserves, all your reserve iron, your ferritin. And again, this doesn't necessarily happen the first time you do it. Everyone's ferritin is going to be a little bit different, how much iron they absorb from their food. And so this isn't necessarily going to happen, but it does happen in some cases, and quite a few cases actually. And so you have to be mindful of this problem. And so why does this happen? Well, iron is actually used in a lot of different areas of our body, not just to make red blood cells. For instance, the mitochondria, where we actually make ATP, which is the energy currency of our body, requires a little bit of iron in it. When you donate blood because you have high hematocrit, high red blood cells, etc., you're keeping your red blood cells in the normal range, and you should actually be doing that, but you strip mine your iron so that your mitochondria and other systems in your body don't have access to that. And so in this case, you have plenty of oxygen being delivered to the tissue so that you can make energy, but your power plants, the mitochondria, actually are shut down or moving at a much slower pace. So if you're feeling winded and kind of lethargic after having fairly good energy when you start TRT and you are donating blood, this is a sign that your dose might be driving the hematocrit up faster than you can actively rebuild that iron from your food. And that's what we call the iron bankruptcy problem. So sign 1 is the testosterone is not being delivered, and sign 2 is the nutrient costs of being on testosterone replacement therapy. And sign 3 is all about how your brain is handling the stimulation from the testosterone. This is for the person that felt maybe really good in the first month or two and now feels a little bit anxious, a little bit more on edge than you were before. And we can think about this as kind of like an overflowing cup. Testosterone, you have to remember, is a neurostimulant. It increases dopamine and that overall adrenergic drive. You can think of adrenergic molecules as things that stimulate our brains and our body, kind of like caffeine. And so in this analogy, we can think of our tissues, our overall body, as the cup. When you start taking testosterone, your cup is way down here, not very full of water or anything like that. The first few weeks as you fill that cup up, you're getting a little bit more, and you feel great. The energy, focus, and drive are all kind of coming back online. But for some men, and it does depend on a lot of different factors that are kind of unique to each person, but for some, the cup gets overfilled, meaning that your tissues become saturated. Now, as long as you don't start overflowing and become oversaturated, you actually continue to feel good. Each week, the cup goes up and then it goes a little bit down and then comes back up again. So you're in kind of a steady state. If your dose is a little bit too high, and your cup starts overflowing, the androgens start binding and finding other tissues to activate. And at higher doses than your body is typically used to, and again, there's different genetic factors here and also environmental factors, kind of how your brain is naturally wired, that can create problems for some people. It's especially going to be problematic for certain, what I call phenotypes. These are going to be people that naturally have a little bit more anxiety. Maybe they're a little bit prone to being stressed out, a little bit prone to having trouble sleeping. And in these cases, they have trouble clearing some of those adrenaline-like molecules, which the testosterone is helping to promote. And sometimes you just have to figure this out the hard way. After you're on the testosterone, you suddenly realize, oh, maybe that's me because you're having these problems. And it is a dose-dependent phenomenon. The higher the dose, the more likely you're going to run into this problem, even if you're not prone to that. And again, it doesn't hit on the first dose, maybe even the first month or second month, sometimes because, again, that cup has to get filled up over time. And it's a result of that overflowing and finding its way into different tissues over time, and your body just can't handle that. So basically, the good energy in the first couple months turns into what we call sympathetic overdrive, and that's a part of the nervous system that we call the fight or flight system, as opposed to rest and digest. The sympathetic is fight or flight. And so you can't sleep, you have racing heart rates or heart palpitations, and you feel wired, but you're also sometimes tired because you're not sleeping as well. So if you have this kind of problem going on, don't make the assumption that you're going to get used to this dose. Typically, that's not going to happen. It's kind of your body more so telling you that you're oversaturated and you're probably overdoing it. And you can't necessarily compare to your friend that's taking the same dose or smaller dose, because everyone is unique in the ways that their body handles different molecules. Same way some people can't metabolize certain medications. This is the same sort of thing. You've flooded the engine with gasoline, and now you have to lower the dose to stop that overflow. So the bottom line is optimization of your testosterone dose. Just like anything else, it isn't about getting the highest possible number on your lab report or taking as much as you possibly can. It's about the highest number that maybe you can handle, assuming that it's not over the reference range, of course, without having these problems. If you're not absorbing the testosterone, well, you got to fix the method that you're delivering it in. If you're burning through your iron, you probably need to slow down the donation or lower the dose so you don't have to donate so often. And if you're oversaturated, anxious, and can't sleep, well, looks like you probably need to lay off the gas pedal. Of course, these are just general ideas and themes that I see in my practice. You need to talk with your specific doctor about the dosing that makes sense for you. Now, if that second point on the iron bankruptcy seemed to hit home for you, you need to understand a little bit more on how iron transport and the mechanisms of iron absorption actually work. And you can find more about that in this video here about copper and iron absorption.